In an epic tale of adventure and magic where heroes courageously defeat, well, maybe it's not looking like that right now. Aina, the silver-haired elf, scrambles away from the overwhelming crisis they're facing right now. Fearing their lives, she calls out for their sage, Yuki, who's somehow just standing there unafraid. The jolly Aurelia thinks Aina is only exaggerating. She's not worried about their situation right now. It would have been more challenging to their party if they faced 100 times more monsters. This? Easy peasy, not a problem at all. A sudden light emanates throughout their surroundings, making the two girls stop their tracks in awe. With a sword in hand, Yuki uses his magic and casts a flare spell against the monsters. Boy, are these girls impressed. That includes their tiny little dragon pet. Inspecting the aftermath, Aina is impressed a human boy could hold so much power and do so much damage. Aurelia's eyes begin to sparkle with amazement as she praises Yuki for his magical prowess. They both initially thought Yuki was a swordsman. Smiling at the girls, Yuki tells them once more he's a sage, someone who can use the highest level of swordsmanship and magic at the same time. Upon hearing this, both Aurelia and Aina wrap their arms around Yuki, each clinging onto Yuki's side. Ah, what a life Yuki has. This moment, though, serves as a tale for the future. Let's go back to where and when it all started. Yuki didn't start off living a spectacular life. In the human world, Yuki used a regular employee who worked for smug superiors. He remembers the day he was fired for no absolute reason. His termination was all too sudden that he didn't believe what he heard, or maybe he was having a nightmare. Unfortunately, it's all reality. Even though he was very competent with his job, the management still placed all the blame for the company's poor performance solely on Yuki. Internally dumbfounded and angry, Yuki stood there speechless and frozen. Luckily enough, Yuki managed to save his earnings. Add that up to his unemployment benefits and Yuki's basically going to live the neat life worry-free. And he took it as his new job to play online games day in and day out. The boy focused so much on it that he can now see through the game's patterns, making it easier for Yuki to level up his character effortlessly. Playing these games made Yuki forget about his present problems and his questionable future. In this game called MMORPG, players need to interact and cooperate with other players in order to level up. Because Yuki is socially inept, he played solo and chose the Trickster class, which had specialized abilities and was even considered a trash tier class due to its lack of versatility. So it was expected that serious players disliked this class and wouldn't choose this at all. After continuously progressing and upgrading throughout the game, Yuki finally maxed out the Trickster's levels. A game panel then informs Yuki of a chance to change his class to Sage. Initially confused, Yuki wondered if there was even a Sage class to begin with. Shrugging it off, he clicked yes to the change. Shifting classes might have been the best decision Yuki's ever made. It wasn't some kind of bug or balancing mistake. It turned out to be an all-access pass to unlimited skill and magic. The Sage class turned out to have every single parameter on a max level. With this overpowered ability, Yuki can now attack his enemies without a hitch, even enemies that are hard to defeat alone. Because of all the fun Yuki's having, he eventually stopped questioning and overthinking everything else. He became more brazen with his gaming and started taking down raid bosses. One time, Yuki faced a beast that's supposed to be fought by 1,000 players. Yet here he was facing it alone. In his mind, it's all a game. He's also pretty sure the game makers never expected someone to hit max level with a trickster. What a blessing in disguise. Yuki's character pierced the beast with his sword, already expecting it to have a whole different level of difficulty when it comes to durability and recovery. This does not waver Yuki's determination though. He knows he has enough attack power to actually defeat this beast. One last pierce through this monster and voila! Yuki has been successfully reincarnated into another world. After the game glitches, Yuki wakes up in a room where priestly-looking men calls him a hero, eventually saying their summoning was a success. Yuki is immediately greeted by a room full of other heroes. A puzzled Yuki starts asking the men as to what is happening and his whereabouts. I mean, who wouldn't be confused when minutes ago he was just playing a game and now he's actually in one? The sword hero Fabrice apologizes for overwhelming Yuki and reassure him that they have pure intentions. According to Fabrice, they are currently in Oswald Royal Castle. Yuki is still baffled by his current situation. Him? A hero? Him? Surrounded by other heroes? Reassuring Yuki, they all quip how it's only natural to be uneasy, and this is indeed Yuki's new reality. The shield hero, Katashi, even says that it will take some time before Yuki can accept this new world. The bubbly healing hero, Shiri, swiftly introduces herself to Yuki, clinging onto his arm as if they're longtime friends. She's pretty much interested at Yuki's young age, assuming he must be overflowing with talent. Young age equals great skill. Whatever skill she might be pertaining to. Shiri then pushes herself closer towards Yuki. Enveloping him with her warmth, Shiri tells the boy he is one of the chores heroes of Oswald Kingdom, and if there's anything Yuki doesn't understand at all, she would be very much obliged to answer him. Sheesh. On more serious matters, Yuki shifts back his attention to Fabrice and asks him as to how they knew Yuki is truly a hero or not. Lifting his hand, Fabrice shows Yuki how they can easily view their stats by focusing their minds on wanting to see it. Fabrice's stat list then pops up showing his name, level, class, and of course a detailed skill set with hidden stat numbers. When Yuki asks about the hidden numbers, Fabrice immediately explains that important information like that is hidden to other people even if they're fellow comrades. Understanding all of this, Yuki lifts his hand and attempts to bring out his class and stats. The room goes quiet and looks of bewilderment paint Fabrice and the others' faces. Whispers fill the room as they stare at Yuki's class, which says Sage, the same class he procured in the game before reincarnating in Oswald. With the heroes being used to only getting hero classes, they're all wondering if Yuki's Sage class is okay. Furthermore, the stat values are completely beyond the roof compared to Yuki's level, which further complicates this whole ordeal. Oblivious to everyone's detached looks, Yuki is in a world of his own. He wonders if he's as strong in Oswald as he was in the game. Could he actually use all of his skills, especially the Sage class, freely here? Disdain expressions darken the other heroes' faces, calling Yuki a fake. All the priests turn to each other and discuss the potential mistakes they made during the ritual. It shouldn't be possible since the process hasn't changed. But why would the ritual summon Yuki when his class doesn't classify as hero? Did one of them mispronounce the incantation? While the priests argue, the king who's been sitting on his throne since Yuki arrived finally speaks. Since Yuki isn't a hero, the king proclaims to banish Yuki at once. They only need heroes, so there's no use for Yuki. At least that's what they all think. An astonished Yuki argues with the king. They summon him here without his consent just so they could kick him out. All the heroes' welcoming aura has dissipated and is replaced with disgust and disappointment. Since they've never heard of a sage before, Yuki is now labeled as next to nothing. Yuki tries to explain to them that he's actually a hero like them. Shiri repulsively tells Yuki not to level himself the same as them because his stat doesn't say he's a hero. In short, not a hero equals useless. Useless equals to not needed. Wow, what a major deja vu moment for Yuki. This feeling of being unwanted is just the same when he was in the human world. His work was always unappreciated. Oh, do we have to mention the scum superiors he had? They doubted Yuki's capabilities and always belittled his skills, and eventually they fired him for being stubborn and useless. This trauma is giving Yuki a major headache, especially that the heroes are saying the same exact thing. Useless. Kick him out. He doesn't belong here. The king then orders his guards to take Yuki outside the castle, since he's not allowed to stay in the sacred royal chamber anymore. Like trash, Yuki is dumped outside the castle. Calling him a fake hero, the guards demand Yuki to just hurry up and go home. Now Yuki is writhing in anger. Even if those people would beg him to come back, he vows to never return. With nothing else to do but explore the town, Yuki ponders upon what just happened in the throne room. Not the getting kicked out part, okay? He thinks about what they told him, about the summoning of heroes. His mind hasn't quite grasped the idea of being reincarnated yet. On top of that, he managed to get reincarnated as a sage. Finding a nearby fountain, Yuki defeatedly sits down. He can't help but feel pathetic for having the same fate in Oswald as he did in the human world. He really thought there was hope in changing his destiny here. Should he just live a quiet and peaceful life here? Or should Yuki look for a way to return to the human world? After giving it some thought, Yuki fervently decides to stay in Oswald instead. He doesn't want to return to the human world, a world where there's nothing but exploitative companies that got him depressed. Standing up, the sage contemplates on what his next course of action will be. He has to do something, right? But what could that be when he was basically thrown out before a demo could even happen? Yuki aimlessly walks around, hoping for some kind of miracle to happen. If this were a game, situations like his would normally forge some kind of fateful encounter to change his destiny. As Yuki steps foot in a secluded alley, he mutters how saving a princess from a kidnapping would be so much helpful right now. Your wish is my command, dear sir. 3 bandits are actually keeping a damsel quiet right now. Impeccable timing as Yuki hears them talk about loading up the muffled-up girl into the carriage before anyone sees them. Yuki hides himself, deciding whether to help the girl or pretend he didn't see anything. Hello? Yuki? This is the fateful encounter you wanted, right? Even if he helps, Yuki has no means to fight these bandits properly and be involved in even more trouble. Before he could even decide anything, Yuki steps on some pieces of wood, making noise in the process. The bandits suspiciously look at the direction of the noise and ultimately catch Yuki watching them. Remembering the status screen back at the royal castle, Yuki wonders if any of his skills would be useful right now. While the bandits are distracted, Yuki lifts up his hands in the air and activates his skill, Divine Blessing. A glowing sigil forms underneath Yuki, and before you know it, the bandits were no more, leaving an awestruck Yuki alone and on the ground. He didn't really expect it to be that powerful, but at least the coast is clear. No pun intended. Yuki then remembers the girl in the carriage and immediately checks on her. Yep, she's still there, tied up and muffled. The question remains, who is this mysterious girl and what role does she play in Yuki's adventure? Yuki sighs in relief upon seeing that the girl, although still tied up, is safe and sound. The poor girl starts getting restless, thinking she's still in danger. Yuki reassures her at once, telling her everything's okay now. While untying her, Yuki informs the girl that the bandits earlier have already been taken care of. Teary-eyed, the girl thanks Yuki for saving her. The girl then asks Yuki for his name, but the boy seems to be preoccupied, openly staring at the damsel he just saved. Judging by her appearance, the girl looks like a rich young lady, and if Yuki looks at her a bit closer, it seems that our sage is captivated by the maiden's beauty, making him blush when the girl notices his prolonged gaze. Finally introducing himself, Yuki once again reassures the girl that he's one of the good guys. He then expresses how he's glad nothing too bad happened to the girl. A tender smile warms the girl's face. It's all because Yuki was at the right place in the right time. Still, Yuki doesn't know anything about the girl and begins asking her about it. Trusting her savior, the girl introduces herself as Aurelia Villars, the third princess of the Villars Empire. Once again, Aurelia thanks Yuki for saving her earlier. As for Yuki, he's quite shocked at Aurelia's revelation. He just saved a princess from the neighboring kingdom. Oh, what a fateful encounter indeed. But how did a princess like Aurelia end up getting captured by bandits? And why is she traveling alone without any of her attendants? These are questions the curious Yuki asks the princess. Well, it's somehow a really cliché story. Aurelia gives Yuki a short laugh before telling him the reason. As a princess, Aurelia was living the perfect and peaceful life. However, she got bored with the same routine every day. It was too peaceful, too quiet. She craved fun and adventure. And so one day she wrote a letter and left it at the castle saying she was off to greener pastures and broader horizons. When Aurelia arrived in town, that's when the bandits set their eyes on her. She was walking down a dark alley when they captured Aurelia and planned on selling her to the nobles. Crossing his arms, Yuki gives the princess a disapproving look, even calling Aurelia a mischievous princess for escaping the castle just to travel around different kingdoms. Now embarrassed, Aurelia tries changing the subject and asks about Yuki's incredible tales of heroism. He did manage to defeat those bandits effortlessly, so there should be many of it, right? Yuki racks his brain of everything that has transpired in his life so far. He doesn't hesitate spilling every single detail to Aurelia. Despite being clueless about the human world that Yuki mentioned, Aurelia was kind enough to listen to Yuki's ramblings with a curious expression. After he was done sharing his story, Yuki suggests for Aurelia to return to Villars' empire, especially after the kidnapping incident. Aurelia adamantly refuses to do so. In fact, she's not worried at all if she ends up in the same situation again. Why would she worry when Yuki will be there to help her again? Yuki doesn't give Aurelia a direct answer. Instead, he lets her understand that he's already got a lot on his plate right now. And even if he agrees, Yuki's so sure that the Empire would have him killed if they found him with the princess. Normally, that would be the case. Yuki would definitely get the boot out. But Aurelia already has a secret plan. Approaching Yuki, the princess clasps Yuki's hand, happily suggesting they only need to play pretend. A frazzled Yuki moves away from Aurelia's touch, frantically denying Aurelia's plans. Face as red as a tomato, Yuki is in disbelief that such plan would come from someone like Aurelia. I mean, she is a princess. Aurelia tries persuading Yuki about her plan. She absolutely knows what she's talking about. She's read about it in her books before. That's one way to reassure him about your perfect plan, girl. Yuki immediately tells her it's a bad idea. Things like these only happen in games in order to silence fathers, kings, who want their daughters married. Putting her hands on her chest, Aurelia sincerely expresses her desire on offering her hand in marriage to Yuki. She doesn't mind at all, calling their meeting fate's guidance. A blushing Yuki scratches his head, telling Aurelia it was just pure happenstance that he was passing by. He refuses to take on Aurelia's offer. This princess is indeed a princess. She's way out of touch with reality. Pretty brazen for her to offer such things too. Offers like these might be common in games, but right now, this is Yuki's reality, and Aurelia's offer is way too convenient. Not only that, Yuki discloses their huge age gap. A lady like Aurelia shouldn't be casually talking about such things to a grown man. This has Aurelia giggling. Yuki must be joking. No matter how Aurelia looks at Yuki, he only seems to be around 15 years old. Instantly looking at his hands, it's only now that Yuki realizes he has much younger skin. This must be due to the reincarnation process. It all makes sense now. The people at the castle was already treating him like a kid and even calling him one. Even so, Yuki shakes his head. It still won't sit well with him knowing he'd just Aurelia and she's already offering marriage. I guess Yuki's one of those who'd like to wait and really get to know someone before calling him the one. Disappointment bears Aurelia's face. Here she thought she had found a reliable companion. Come to think of it, Yuki believes Aurelia would also suit him well as a companion too. It's just, things are a bit complicated right now and he doesn't want to add more fuel to the already burning flames. But at the same time, Yuki knows he can't just leave Aurelia all by herself, so he suggests another plan. Yuki tells Aurelia how he usually travels alone, but if she were to follow him on her own accord, then he can't do anything about it anymore. Hearing this makes Aurelia brimming with happiness, hugging Yuki oh so tightly. Their moment gets interrupted when Yuki's stomach starts growling. A sheepish smile forms on Yuki's face before explaining he hasn't eaten anything since coming in this world. Aurelia gently laughs, holding onto her stomach as she also feels hungry now too. She then suggests they talk about their next step over a nice meal, and as a token of her gratitude, she'll treat Yuki to a free meal. Yuki awkwardly takes her up on the offer. Yuki, I don't even think you have any New World money to begin with. Meanwhile, back at Oswald Castle, a guard approaches the king, informing him that Aurelia has been taken away by someone else. This stresses the king badly. Didn't he hire skilled bandits? The guards further details out that the bandits were wiped off almost immediately, and the culprit is the boy they just banished, Yuki. In disbelief, the king warns the guard not to say such ridiculous things. There's no way such thing would happen. The guard bows his head even lower, apologizing to the king and promising to resume their efforts on the search for the princess. After the guard leaves, the king mulls over this new problem. Yes, he's the one who ordered those bandits to kidnap Aurelia in hopes of using her as collateral in negotiations with the Villars Empire. Now this poses a problem to Oswald Empire. If Aurelia were to return to Villars Empire and her father learns about the kidnapping, the king is sure that the emperor will launch a thorough investigation. This is an act of aggression and Oswald would be doomed when this comes to light. Not only that, if the surrounding kingdoms were to form an alliance with Villars, Oswald would stand no chance even if they had a lot of heroes. Ugh, this king turns out to be an enemy. Let's just go back to Yuki and Aurelia for now. The princess is joyfully munching on her delicious meal. Even if it's just commoner's food, she still thinks it's quite good. On the other hand, Yuki doesn't know if this is cheap food or not, but at least this should fill him up. While chewing on a chicken leg, Yuki plans on getting a job. He can't just be a freeloader forever. Aurelia suggests on becoming an adventurer whose job is to take on requests and getting paid upon its completion. Yuki hesitates a bit, telling Aurelia he's not really a skilled fighter. However, Aurelia doesn't believe him since he did manage to defeat the bandits earlier. She urges Yuki to take the adventurer's test in order for him to get his license. A test would definitely be a nice way to gauge Yuki's abilities too. Taking out her ID card, Aurelia shows it to Yuki, explaining it was even easy for her to get one. And no doubt in Aurelia's mind that Yuki will pass it with flying colors asleep. Yuki notices the fake name that Aurelia is using on her ID card. She can't use her real name or else she'll get exposed. Yuki's not impressed on how thorough Aurelia is with things like this. Suddenly, they hear a loud sound coming from outside. A man then informs the diners that the weapon shop across the street is on fire. They all go outside and watch the flames engulf the building. The citizens start talking about how to put out the fire quickly. It's not just the building that's going to burn down if they don't contain the fire. Yuki and Aurelia then hear an old man crying out for his grandchild. Apparently, his grandchild is still inside the burning building. The citizens dissuade the old man from saving the child since the fire is already too big and no one can get close to it. The old man drops to his knees crying, asking for someone to save his grandchild. Aurelia swiftly turns to Yuki and asks him to save the child. Yuki understands Aurelia's concerns, but they can't go rushing in a big fire without a concrete plan. Yuki tries remembering his skill set, hoping there could be something he could use to put out the fire. Could climate manipulation help him right now? Could this skill really change the weather? There's only one way to find out. Reaching a decision, Yuki walks inside to try and rescue the child. At once, Yuki is met with hot, flaming fire. He covers himself and carefully makes his way through the fire as he calls out for the missing child. The child screams out and Yuki walks towards the child's direction. Holding onto his cat, the child tells Yuki he was supposed to be outside with his grandpa, but his cat, Tama, was missing. So the child went back inside to get Tama, but couldn't find his way out because of the flames. Initially, Yuki prepares to use climate manipulation to make it rain. But seeing that the fire has already spread, Yuki decides to cool down the burning wood instead. This would be a much faster and more efficient plan. Without a second thought, Yuki activates Climate Manipulate and the temperature around them instantly drops to absolute zero. Outside, the citizens see that the fire has suddenly died down. They all assume that Yuki had something to do with it. Questions begin to unfold as to how Yuki was able to do so. After a while, Yuki and the kid finally make their way outside. Aurelia rushes towards them and is happy to see that both are safe. She expects nothing less from Yuki. The sage, Grandpa and the child finally reunite, tearfully embracing each other. What a lovely scene to behold, all thanks to our mighty adventurers. Everyone witnessed the grandfather and grandchild's reunion, all made possible because of Yuki's heroism. If he was a minute too late, things would have ended on a sour note. After a while, the grandfather finally turns to Yuki and introduces himself as the owner of the shop. He apologizes for looking a bit dramatic earlier and thanks Yuki for saving his grandson Hans. When Yuki asks Grandpa about the fire, the old man could only guess it was some gunpowder material that caught fire. But he has no idea how it really started. I smell something fishy around here. Anyways, Grandpa really want to thank Yuki for all that he's done. Politely declining, Yuki scratches the back of his head as he explains that Grandpa already has his hands full with his shop's current condition. Still, Grandpa insists he must show Yuki his gratitude. If Yuki is fine with anything from Grandpa's shop, then he has Grandpa's approval to take whatever he likes. Although shocked by the generous offer, Yuki takes Grandpa on his offer. Yuki and Aurelia then go inside Grandpa's shop, happy to see that most of the merchandise didn't get destroyed by the fire. There's still so many weapons that Yuki will surely have a hard time picking one. Yuki initially picks out a double-headed axe. Staring at it makes Yuki wonder if sages even wield exclusive weapons. Could a sage equip any weapon at all? He then turns to a sharp sword. Inspecting it, Yuki still doubts a sage like him could properly use them. While checking out a mace weapon, Aurelia approaches Yuki to ask if he already found a good weapon to get. Yuki can't really answer that. He's surprisingly having a hard time choosing one that's best fit for him. While Yuki tests out yet another weapon, this time a flail, Aurelia thinks Yuki should just trust his gut. Yuki doesn't mind any weapon as long as it's easy for him to handle. So it's definitely not this flail, Yuki. Grandpa then approaches the two adventurers, telling them that while the weapons are all mass-produced, they're certainly of top-notch quality. This time Yuki tries handling a pickaxe. He still can't decide and ultimately asks Grandpa for recommendations. Grandpa thinks over it for a bit and suddenly, bam, he knows exactly what to give to Yuki. He rushes towards a wooden chest looking for the weapon in mind. Alas, Grandpa finds it and presents a one-of-a-kind piece to Yuki. Yuki takes a hold of the sword in awe of its splendid form. This sword is known to be the Demon Sword Berserk. It's said to have been wielded by a ruthless demon king many years ago. Upon hearing this, Yuki asks Grandpa if the sword is valuable. A smiling Grandpa further tells Yuki that the sword could have been of value, but since it has lost its magic power, it's more of an antique piece now. Bringing it up close for inspection, Yuki can't help but smile. The sword's design and backstory has really caught his true heart. If only there's a way to restore its power. Out of nowhere, the sword starts glowing, astonishing both Yuki and Aurelia. It seems that Yuki has unconsciously activated his skill, Auto Repair. Yuki has managed to successfully restore 0.2% of the sword's power. Grandpa isn't surprised by this outcome, even saying that it's as if the sword has chosen Yuki to be its master. This just settles it even more. This sword, which is glowing with frenzied light, is officially Yuki's. After gratefully accepting his new sword, Yuki and Aurelia bid Grandpa and Hans goodbye. Walking into town again, the duo decide on looking for an inn. With all that's happened today, they could really use some R&R, hopefully in a nice room too. After a while, the two finally find a room. Aurelia is very much pleased with how spacious it is. Because of that, they won't have trouble staying together in this room. Not only that, this is Aurelia's first overnight outside castle walls, so she's pretty excited. Normally, Yuki wanted to have separate rooms, but Aurelia was able to persuade him in order to save lodging fees. Kinda suspicious for the princess to be worried about money. Anyways, the room actually has one bed, a sofa, so they won't have trouble sharing it at all. When Yuki offers the bed to Aurelia, she promptly says no because she wants to experience sleeping on the sofa. She gladly sits on the sofa whilst telling Yuki that she can have this experience inside the castle. Yuki won't recommend the sofa for its comfiness, but if it's the princess's wish, then so shall it be. The next morning, Yuki's deep slumber gets interrupted by something squishy. This texture feels soft and smooth. This is no pillow at all. He gradually turns to where this bouncy feeling is coming from. And poof, Yuki wakes up by getting squelched between Aurelia's pillows. Looking at it on a wider perspective, Yuki is actually stuck in a very compromising position, with Aurelia hugging Yuki towards her. Yuki tries to detach from Aurelia's hold, but the princess still wants to cuddle. He finally gets Aurelia to wake up, the latter casually greeting him good morning. But oh no, sir, there's no such thing as a casual morning greeting with what just happened. Yuki is frazzled and starts asking as to why Aurelia is in his bed. The princess smiles while apologizes for her invasion. She couldn't get comfy on the sofa and ended up sneaking into Yuki's arms. Bed. Yuki then scolds Aurelia for her actions. It's improper to sneak into guy's bed when they've only just met, so she can do it after a month then, Yuki? Kidding aside, Aurelia is puzzled as to why Yuki seems flustered about it. She doesn't see anything wrong about sharing a bed. Oh, the joys of innocence. Crossing his arms, Yuki starts explaining to Aurelia that young girls like her shouldn't be sleeping in the same bed with a guy. However, Aurelia doesn't mind at all. If it were a stranger, sure. But if it's Yuki, there's nothing she should be worried about. A blushing Yuki still thinks Aurelia is being careless. Even if it's him, she should still be cautious. He hashes out on how the world has plenty of people that would take advantage of situations like these. Heeding Yuki's advice, Aurelia agrees to be more careful from now on. With a worried expression, Yuki makes sure Aurelia won't be sneaking into the sofa tomorrow. The princess only giggles, teasing Yuki with a "who knows" reply. To make sure that Aurelia doesn't get tricked by some shady guy in the future, Yuki devises a life-learning moment for her. Yuki slowly draws himself closer to Aurelia, telling her that he's going to make his move since she clearly wants it. The innocent princess begins to fluster, asking Yuki as to how far would his move go beyond. With a creepy look, Yuki informs Aurelia he might just go all the way, inching his face closer and closer. In a sudden turn of events, Aurelia's initial fluster dissipates and is replaced by one of longing and acceptance. She poses herself innocently before telling Yuki that she agrees to his plans if he really means it. Yuki definitely didn't see that one coming at all. He instantly drops his facade and starts explaining he only meant to do this as an example to warn Aurelia about these things. Hearing this, the princess expresses her disappointment. Maybe next time, princess. Well, so much for a life-learning moment. Later on, the two get ready and head outside town. As they walk, people start whispering and staring at them. Correction, people are staring at Yuki. Yuki starts worrying about being the center of attention. He presumes this is about being summoned from another world and getting kicked out of the castle in the end. Come to think of it, Aurelia did hear whispers about a new hero being summoned a while back. That could have been him, Yuki says. Now Aurelia sports the same worried look, fearing that rumors about Yuki being banished from the castle are spreading. To Yuki, it's not just that. It's not a big deal if it's just about getting banished. But if anyone found out he's traveling with Aurelia, things could get messy. Aurelia believes it to be impossible. But it is, especially with yesterday's fire and Yuki saving the day. Rumors about that will soon spread too. Sighing, Yuki utters how he's always had bad luck, being summoned then ridiculed and thrown out without even a proper explanation. Turning to Aurelia, Yuki asks her if she's disappointed with him as well, with a guy whose sage powers are unclear. Was it all just pure luck all along? A smile forms on Aurelia's face. She directly answers Yuki with a no. She's not disappointed at all. She then tells Yuki of what she knows, that the official reason for the hero's summoning is to defeat the Demon King. However, rumors say that its true purpose is military exploitation. Aurelia doesn't want Yuki to be used as a pawn. And on the brighter side, Aurelia was saved from the bandits because of the events that transpired before that. If Yuki had been the hero, then Aurelia would have remained captured and would have caused trouble for her father. Thinking about it, Yuki agrees. If he hadn't met Aurelia as well, he would have been completely lost. See? Things aren't so bad at all, Yuki. Clutching Yuki's hands, Aurelia cheerfully tells him how she likes Yuki's positivity, and that's why she'll follow him anywhere. A blushing Yuki awkwardly thanks the princess for such declaration before finally making their way to the guild. May such positivity radiate throughout this duo's journey, since this is all just the beginning of many more trials and triumphs to come. After a while, the duo finally arrive at the guild and immediately approach the receptionist for the licensure test. The receptionist then asks for Yuki's name, to which the sage fully complies. The receptionist is surprised upon hearing Yuki's name. She's not too subtle about it, so Yuki ultimately asks if there are any problems. Changing the subject, the receptionist tells Yuki that he can only join the guild if he passes the test. The test consists of a magic power assessment, a practical test, and a final test. So Yuki needs to complete 3 tests in total for him to get his license. The receptionist gets a portable magic power gauge for the first assessment. Yuki only needs to place his arm through the device and it'll tighten inside to measure his magic power. Kind of like a blood pressure monitor in the human world. The measurement initially goes smoothly, with the power level slowly rising. Then wham! The machine starts making weird sounds before it finally explodes. Luckily, Yuki's arm is still intact. The receptionist repeatedly apologizes by the unexpected events to the now frightened duo. She scratches her head while telling the both of them to proceed to another room so they can redo the examination. It seems like the machine earlier was a new type of magic tool. Inside the room, a floating magic crystal awaits them. Unlike the previous magic tool, this crystal can't give an exact MP, but it works by detecting changes in color to determine the MP level, sort of the difference between digital and analog. But with the latter one, Yuki feels like it's something out of a game. No pun intended. The receptionist then asks Yuki to touch the magic crystal. The crystal starts changing color as Yuki describes the feeling of getting strangely hot. But this has never happened before, explains the receptionist. Suddenly, the crystal begins cracking. The 3 are already expecting the crystal to explode like the machine from earlier. But since the crystal's still changing color, it should probably be fine. It's not fine at all when the crystal does break, shocking everyone in the room. The receptionist explains that the crystal's measurement limit is around 100,000 MP. With it shattering means that the magic power exceeded its limit. Since the passing rate is only at least 20,000 MP and Yuki managed to break the crystal's 100,000 magic power limit, he is obviously above the standards. The receptionist then gives Yuki her honest opinion, saying she never expected him to pass at all. Until 2 days ago, the passing rate was only 10,000 MP. Even Aurelia remembers taking her test with the supposed 10,000 MP passing rate, but it was suddenly changed to 20,000 MP yesterday. A sudden influx like this would be tough even for veteran adventurers. Aurelia knows this, especially that her MP is only around 15,000. Further explaining the sudden notice, the receptionist tells the duo that the direct notice came from the kingdom itself. However, there was an additional clause to the notice. It only applied to one person. And yup, you guessed that right. It only applied to Yuki and is effective immediately upon receipt of notice. This has Aurelia fuming mad. The kingdom was still bullying and coming after Yuki even after everything they did to him. Thanks to this new information, Yuki now has his guard up for the remaining tests. Proceeding with the practical test, the receptionist guides them to the outdoor training area. On the way there, Yuki asks Aurelia as to what kind of opponent she faced during her test. Apparently, Aurelia went against a C-rank adventurer. This means that Yuki's opponent will probably be someone even stronger. The receptionist gives out an awkward smile before agreeing. In normal day-by-day practical tests in the guild, a C-rank adventurer would be the opponent to face. But since the memo from the kingdom, Yuki will be facing against an A-rank adventurer. Speaking of, a bearded man clad in armor walks out of the other door, accusing Yuki of being a fake hero who deceived the king. Wow, is it just me, or are these so-called heroes blinded by their king's facade? This A-rank adventurer is none other than Regulus. He smugly scoffs at Yuki's audacity for still seeking to become an adventurer despite being given pardon from execution. Regulus sarcastically tells Yuki he respects such audacity, to which the latter gives out a sarcastic reply in return by saying thank you. However, Regulus can't actually read sarcasm that well and mistakes this as Yuki being dumb. The crowd cheers for Regulus. They expect their mighty hero to be unforgivable, unlike the king. Dryly laughing, Yuki stares at Regulus as he takes out a humongous sword. The A-ranker even boasts that it'll be impossible for Yuki to fend off his mighty sword. Sure, Regulus. Taking out his demon sword, Yuki activates Divine Blessing. With this, he hopes to be able to read Regulus's movements. But he has to be careful in making decoys against a skilled swordsman like Regulus. Yuki is fully aware someone that skilled will be able to see through him. Yuki has no choice but to take the offensive side, planning on attacking Regulus continuously, in order to find an opening for a decisive strike. As Yuki rushes forward, Regulus can feel the overwhelming power radiating from Yuki. In just a single step, the Age appeared right in front of him in an instant. Was this magic? Regulus then lunges his sword forward but ultimately misses hitting Yuki. Woo, that was a close call, right, Yuki? I mean, Yuki already expected such damage from an A-rank adventurer. If he deliberately attacked head-on, he would have been a splattered mosquito right now. Thanks to Divine Blessing, Yuki has managed to avoid all of Regulus's attack. But he also knows that won't work for long. He needs just one opening to land a powerful blow on Regulus. Meanwhile, the crowd can't help but feel astounded with the duel between the two adventurers. They now know that Yuki is as good as Regulus, if not even better. Only Aurelia is cheering on for Yuki, not at all surprised that her savior is winning the battle. As the fight ensues, the crowd witnesses Yuki's prowess in the battlefield. It's like he's dancing through all of Regulus's attacks. The smug look from earlier evidently wears off, and Regulus now sports that of a frightened cat. What exactly is he fighting, and where did all this power come from? Alas, the opening Yuki's been looking for. Yuki finally manages to swing his sword at Regulus. The A-ranker tries to protect himself with his sword for it to only break in half. Regulus thought he was battling out a weak opponent, only to be proven otherwise. Now he's laying on the ground with his mighty sword no more. The crowd goes silent. They can't believe their beloved Lord Regulus just lost. Now curious with Yuki's identity, Aurelia runs towards Yuki and gives him a congratulatory embrace. The receptionist is also quite impressed with Yuki's abilities. It's no joke to be able to defeat an A-ranker, especially that Regulus is said to be the strongest amongst the kingdom's adventurers. Since obviously Yuki won, it's no doubt that he passes the test. The receptionist gives him a thumbs up. Now Aurelia calls the blushing Yuki the strongest in the kingdom. It seems that our sage isn't used to getting such compliments. Yuki then asks the receptionist about the final test, to which she informs him that the practical test will have him participate in a battlefield during a campout. But because this test needs multiple examiners, it will take 2 days to prepare for it. Turning towards his defeated foe, Yuki worries about Regulus's current state, and if the unconscious A-ranker will be okay. The receptionist reassures Yuki, telling him that they'll take care of him and that Yuki can now leave the premises. Besides, 2 medics are already examining Regulus, one calling out for a stretcher. A smile forms on Yuki's face. At least he's done for now and can have time to relax. Agreeing, Aurelia gives him a smile, assuring him they'll both take a break before the final test. Meanwhile, inside Oswald's castle, Katashi bows down to the king whilst giving a report about Yuki's recent triumph on the guild's test. Moreover, there are also reports about Yuki's complete victory against Regulus. Not a single scratch on the boy. The report badly upsets the king, calling Yuki a brat. How can a fake hero possess such strength and power? Katashi is honestly surprised as well. Yuki has exceeded beyond his expectations. They clearly made a mistake, but the damage has already been done. Right now they need a plan to clean up their mess. The fuming king can't accept his grave mistake. If people find out that he banished such a talented individual, he'll be a laughingstock amongst his own citizens. Ordering Katashi to come up with a plan, the king tells him to eliminate Yuki without damaging his image. In an instant, Katashi suggests they use the assassination squad. This piques the king's interest, but he worries that it would be impossible to assassinate Yuki, especially with ordinary methods. However, Katashi already has a plan in mind. They will be replacing the examiners for the final test. And during the test, they'll make sure to make it look like an accident. With a grim look, Katashi assures the king that everyone will believe their story since it's not uncommon for deaths to happen during the guild's practical test. No one will ever suspect it's the king's plotting. The king gives it a thought and not long decides to give it a go, even calling it a brilliant idea. He leaves this pressing matter in Katashi's capable hands. His only condition is that no one should suspect a thing or two. This time around, the king will make sure the fake hero will disappear for good. Will their evil plotting succeed as planned? At long last, a moment of rest and relaxation for our favorite duo. And what better way to enjoy their break than to stretch those tight muscles in a nice warm bath? Aurelia seems to have gotten the memo as she enjoys her bath. It may be smaller than the one in the castle, but it still has its own refreshing charm. Another one crossed out of Aurelia's bucket list. It's not only her aching body that's being healed right now, but also her mind. She also thinks Yuki should enjoy a warm bath to refresh himself before the final test. That should relax both his body and mind for sure. Meanwhile, Yuki is outside sitting on the bed with his arms crossed. After his standoff with Regulus, Yuki's opinion about being a sage is beginning to sway. Maybe it's not actually so bad after all. Sure, it's not on par with a hero, but maybe, just maybe, it's strong enough to survive as an adventure in this world. For now, Yuki shifts his focus on other things. He decides to open his stats to check out all his skills. Upon going through the list, Yuki is puzzled to see barrier magic. He surely didn't have this in the beginning. When was he able to acquire this? Looking at the name, Yuki deduces it's a type of magic where he can create a barrier or shield. He gives it a try, lifting his hand to activate the said skill. Crew. Staring at his surroundings, Yuki can't seem to see any change at all. He's so immersed with his newly acquired skill that he doesn't notice Aurelia coming out from her bath with only a towel covering her. Aurelia casually walks toward Yuki, suggesting that he takes a bath as well. She even volunteers to wash his back for him. Before she could even reach the bed, Aurelia gets knocked off by an invisible force. She's now on the floor, holding her head in pain. This gets Yuki's attention, instantly worrying about Aurelia's sudden outburst. The princess explains what happened, telling Yuki that she somehow ran into an invisible wall. The poor princess seems to be teary-eyed from the fall too. Yuki then stands up and knocks on the invisible wall Aurelia just mentioned. A question comes in mind. Will the barrier be able to prevent attacks and intrusion? Is this how it works? A game-like panel appears in front of Yuki. Apparently he can set a password to deactivate the barrier magic. This way, Yuki's allies will be able to enter and exit the barrier freely. After choosing one, Yuki tells Aurelia to say, Hirake Goma. Although she has trouble saying it at first, Aurelia manages to say it in one go, lifting the barrier in the process. Yuki then goes into detail, conveying to Aurelia that she ran into a barrier that his magic created, and the phrase Hirake Goma is the password to enter. He asks Aralai to remember it for when the time comes. The next day, Yuki and Aurelia meet the receptionist out in the forest. The receptionist doesn't waste any time and explains the mechanics of the final test. Yuki is to camp here for the night. During that period, the officer in charge will attack, and Yuki must do his best to protect the campsite. Protecting the camp is his top priority. The officer in charge will also be an adventurer of rank C or higher, so it's usually considered difficult to defeat them. The test will end at exactly 6 in the morning tomorrow. Both Aurelia and the receptionist will come back by then, with the latter to hopefully deliver the good news of Yuki's successful examination. After the girls leave, Yuki starts off with setting up a barrier which is now on level 2. He was able to level it up using the skill points he accumulated. He doesn't really know how strong the barrier is now, but at least it'll buy him some time if enemies were to attack. Yuki then sets camp, sitting down while cooking his meal. He never thought he'd experience solo camping in this world until now. Meanwhile, a group of assailants are already hiding in the bushes nearby. One assassin informs their captain that they've successfully surrounded Yuki. They shall now commence Operation Eliminate Yuki. The captain gives everyone the heads up. that their target is none other than the innocent boy sitting and waiting for his meal to cook. It's unfortunate, but there's no room for sympathy right now. According to the captain, rumors have spread like wildfire across the town saying that Yuki committed a serious betrayal against the kingdom. They're here because the orders came directly from King Selber himself. Judging by that fact alone, they already know Yuki won't be an ordinary opponent to face. The assassins initially plan on confusing Yuki from behind since he doesn't seem like having any plans on moving. A frantic assassin then comes up to report an emergency to the captain. Nope. Yuki hasn't suspected anything for now, but the captain needs to see what they're truly up against. The assassin lunges a sharp blade at Yuki. With so much force it should directly hit the sage. However, his blade only bounces off the barrier Yuki set up. They're all taken aback when the captain voices out his suspicions. They might be dealing with barrier magic. But that shouldn't be possible since it's the type of magic that's been lost in history. Crossing his arms it might be impossible, but right now it's all the captain could think of. If it's really barrier magic, then it won't break with just swords or regular magic. Since this operation is mandated by the king himself, failure is not an option for the assassins. The captain then orders his henchmen to bring out the magical weapon. Although they didn't get permission to use this, they'll just inform the king afterwards. Like I said, failure is not an option. The assassin begin to worry, thinking this might be too much. Who wouldn't call this excessive when they literally have a cannonball launcher for a weapon? The captain reassures his team that they'll only use it until the barrier breaks. After the necessary preparations are done, the captain tells them to brace for impact as a cannonball is launched towards Yuki. The assassins wait in much anticipation as the heavy smoke begins to clear. Did they get him? Unfortunately for them, Yuki is still alive and kicking, and still happily prepping his meal. Yuki doesn't even seem to notice earlier's explosion too. The captain orders to fire another round of cannons at Yuki, even firing up the backup cannon. He also commands them focus their attacks on a single point as much as possible. And for those who aren't doing anything, they'll assist with amplifying the cannon's MP. Another assassin approaches the captain with worry. It seems that the barrier isn't budging at all. However, the captain knows the cannons are of high caliber. Besides, it's not like they're dealing with demons or magical dragons. While the assassins continue launching attacks at Yuki's barrier, the sage is happy to see that his food is now cooked. He's not so sure if it's any good since he was provided with limited ingredients. Yuki immediately fills a bowl, immediately giving it a taste, and wow, Yuki did a pretty good job with it. He devours his meal with gusto and ends up eating a lot. He's so full that Yuki now wonders when the attack will come. Ahem, Yuki. If you could just turn around and see that the forest is turning into ashes right now. Could it be that Yuki can't hear all the noise the assassins have been making? Or even feel the magnitude of their attacks? This has the captain thinking. It shouldn't be possible, but looking at Yuki right now, they should be considering that possibility. I mean, here they are going all out on Yuki, but the boy isn't even hearing nor feeling any of it. In fact, Yuki's now getting sleepy. Yawning and stretching, Yuki is having a great time solo camping. Meanwhile, the assassins are still launching the cannons in full force. The captain has now ordered them to push through with the firepower and turn Yuki and the camp into ash. Yikes! After a series of mega attacks, the forest which was once abundant of luscious green trees is now a remnant of the past. The captain can't believe what he's seeing right now. They're running out of magical ammo and there's Yuki, sleeping. Even with the kingdom's most advanced magical weapons, they weren't able to make a single, even the tiniest, dent on the barrier. What kind of person are they really dealing with? To their dismay, the assassins have failed their mission. The captain and his team can only report the things that transpired. The captain may not be able to tell the king the truth, but he knows that Yuki possesses a power greater than of those heroes. If the assassins can't handle this, then the heroes will have to deal with Yuki instead. If that happens, the captain prays that those arrogant heroes will humble themselves a bit. After their conversation, the captain commands his team to retreat and to leave no single evidence behind. Nightfall then envelops the sky. The next morning, Aurelia and the receptionist arrive to inspect the camp. They both see the ashen remains of the forest, believing a huge battle took place last night. Suddenly, the receptionist hits her head on the barrier. Aurelia then recalls what Yuki had told her about the barrier magic and its password. Shouting Hiraki Goma, Aurelia lifts the restriction and tells the receptionist they can now enter it. They finally see a sleeping Yuki, still alive and intact. The receptionist approaches Yuki, nudging him gently to wake up. The sage finally wakes up. Still groggy from his sleep, Yuki informs the receptionist that no one really came last night. He then tries explaining to the receptionist that it's not his fault no one came for him. The receptionist asks Yuki to listen to her as she gives the results of the test. It's not that they didn't come. They just failed the attack because they couldn't break through the mysterious invisible wall Yuki had set up. Now that Yuki finally turns around, he sees that there are indeed traces of an attack everywhere. So, Does this mean increasing the barrier's magic level also increases its power to block the shock and sound from outside? So, according to the rules, regardless of how it happened, Yuki was still able to protect the camp for the whole night. And this is the test's main purpose. Giving Yuki a double thumbs up, the receptionist gives him the good news of passing the test. Aurelia immediately wraps her arms around Yuki, congratulating him for passing. The receptionist then hands Yuki his ID card, marking today as the official day Yuki becomes a licensed adventurer. A lot of terrible things have come Yuki's way, but this is proof that his life is about to change. To make use of their ID cards, Yuki and Aurelia both set out on a quest outside the royal capital. Carlon Plains is somehow a convenient area since it's very close to the capital. Yuki flips through the guidebook the guild provided them with, telling Aurelia they're doing a collection quest for beginners like them. Aurelia then takes out the quest form and is a bit surprised at the amount of items they need to procure. For their first mission, they need to collect 200 blue medicinal herbs, 200 red medicinal herbs, and 400 holy flowers, all of which are in the northern part of Carlon Plains. It's not supposed to be this many, but Yuki accepted 10 similar requests all at once. As a gamer in the human world, he knows that beginner-level quests like this one is best finished in batches. Yuki reads the guidebook again, looking for the perfect area to gather the items. After some thorough reading, Yuki discovers that Carlon Forest would be the ideal spot. Even though their primary was supposed to be Carlon Plains, the guidebook says that the 2 types of medicinal herbs in their list are more commonly found in forests, and that the holy flowers thrive when exposed to magical energy. Since the forest will be more infested with monsters than the plains, the magical energy in the forest would be higher. Unease grows inside of Aurelia. Sure, they'll find even more flowers and herbs in the forest, but she hasn't tested the new weapon she bought. She's worried about facing stronger magical monsters there than in the plains. Yuki immediately reassures Aurelia, telling her that they have barrier magic to begin with. And according to the guidebook, the monsters in the forest aren't that strong. Besides, the barrier magic itself is already enough. The guild examiners, aka the assassins, couldn't even get past it. Monsters would be a-okay. Aurelia just needs to stick close to Yuki and she'll be fine. This instantly lifts Aurelia's mood, giving all her trust in Yuki. They soon reach Carlon Forest, and not long, they also find the flowers and herbs they're looking for. The duo immediately get to work. This quest is going like a breeze. Aurelia doesn't even feel like they're working. To her, it's like going on a picnic. On that note, maybe they should have brought some packed lunch. Occasionally, forest monsters did try attacking the duo, but thanks to the barrier magic, they were able to focus on their quest. The barrier made sure that no monster could ever approach Yuki and Aurelia. After a while of picking, the bags they brought with them are now full. Seeing all of it, Yuki wishes they could bring it all back. It would be a waste to just throw them away. Suddenly, a game panel appears and asks if Yuki would like to store items in the item slot. Impeccable timing. Because of the item slot, Yuki is able to gather even more herbs and flowers. He casually throws them into the item slot so they can bring all, if not more, of it. Yuki shows the item slot to Aurelia, explaining that it's used to store stuff and they can also take things out anytime as well. Aurelia's face is full of amazement, complimenting the sage on how differently he does things. Because they've gathered everything in this area, Yuki feels like it should be more than enough. He then informs Aurelia they'll be heading back to the capital before it gets dark. You never know what might happen in the forest at night. All of a sudden, the atmosphere changes and lightning strikes the sky. It was just sunny a while ago, but now something feels off. Yuki believes the intervals between the strikes are too short. It's not normal thunder lightning, something is definitely off. What really catches the duo's attention is a scream. It was so loud that they can even hear it even with the barrier magic surrounding them. Although both Yuki and Aurelia are scared, curiosity eventually wins them over. They really want to see what's going on, but what if it's a powerful monster? No worries, dear Princess Aurelia. You have Yuki to protect you. Besides, the sage already plans on staying as far away as possible. There shouldn't be any strong monsters near the capital as per the guidebook too. Meanwhile, in the deepest part of Carlon Forest, the heroes party are all in search for something really important. Shiri isn't that convinced of it, but since the king himself issued the investigation, Fabrice doesn't have a choice. Could the water-eyed dragon really live this close to the capital? Well, whatever shows up, Shiri surely wouldn't mind since she has her darling Fabrice to protect her. When Shiri gives Fabrice a hug, the team leader instantly feels a boost of ego and tells her he would take it down with one single strike. I hope everyone can feel my eyes rolling right now. The two are still lovey-dovey, hence why Katashi calls them out for it, reminding them that they aren't on a picnic. Fabrice randomly finds magical wolves in the forest and strikes them with his sword. To him, these wolves are just weaklings and hardly even good for a warm-up. One wolf wasn't fazed by Fabrice's attack, as if challenging the hero's leader. Grinning, Fabrice accepts the wolf's challenge and with utter force, swings his sword at the wolf, slicing it in two. Shiri is so impressed she couldn't help but hug Fabrice once more. Fabrice sulks in the attention he's getting from her, calling it one of those. Anyways, as they walk much deeper into the forest, the more they begin to feel the magical energy concentration it's giving off. If the water-eyed dragon is its source, then the monster should get even stronger. Sticking out her tongue, Shiri confidently tells the others that Fabrice will be able to defeat such monsters, no matter how strong. The heroes let out a dry laugh, sarcastically telling Fabrice they'll be counting on the so-called sword hero by then. We'll all be counting on that, Fabrice. The heroes soon reach an empty shrine. They believe it to the shrine where the water-eyed dragon supposedly sealed itself. A giggling Shiri jokes about the dragon being afraid of Fabrice. Not everyone is a fan of the joke though, especially Katashi, who commands them to start investigating instead of joking around. Before anyone can even start their recon mission, the shrine begins to display magical symbols. The earth quakes as the shrine begins to crack. Suddenly, an uproar echoes throughout the forest, leaving the heroes in a state of fear. The shrine eventually breaks, emerging from it the ferocious water-eyed dragon they've been looking for. The heroes can't believe their eyes. Standing in front of them is a magnificent magical beast that's ought to be sealed away. This is the water-eyed dragon believed to be in myths. Fabrice then takes the lead, commanding everyone to work together to fight the dragon. The others begin to protest, calling Fabrice's plan absurd. Fabrice immediately turns towards Katashi, asking the shield hero to block the dragon's attack. But the hero doesn't want to comply since it'll be major suicide if he does. Now, an argument ensues between the two heroes. Fabrice demands Katashi to move forward, saying it's his job to do so. But Katashi retaliates, saying Fabrice can do it on his own. All this yapping has the dragon giving them a menacing look. It's unimpressed with the hero's pathetic rambling and ultimately release a mouthful of fire breath. Because of this sudden attack, the other heroes are all wiped out in one go. Healing won't make it in time. Katashi immediately wants to raise the white flag, knowing there's no way they could beat such beast. He dashes off on his own, leaving Fabrice to face the dragon alone. The sword hero wants to escape on his own. But how could he do so when the dragon is as stealthy as it is strong? It rushes towards Fabrice with its claws forward and kicks the hero towards the ground. Now on the ground, Fabrice is injured from the attack. His body can't move now, and it just feels like his body is going to fall apart. The dragon isn't done yet though. It gazes at Fabrice like he's going to be its lunch. The best that Fabrice could do is scream for it to stay away. Will the remaining heroes survive such dilemma? Looking up to an ominous sky, Yuki and Aurelia aren't sure what they're going to see, but they can absolutely feel the air vibrating from where they stand. They better be mentally prepared for what's to come. After a while of walking, the adventurers are greeted with the sight of the severely injured heroes. They both turn to see what has caused such catastrophe, only to discover the mythical water-eyed dragon. It stands tall and proud. Upon hearing its thunderous roar, Aurelia dashes behind Yuki's back, hiding herself from the scary beast. She then proposes they leave immediately, telling Yuki the dragon is dangerous to face right now. Yuki agrees with her. While this dragon looks like one of those surprise killers a gamer meets in the early stages of a game, he feels like they shouldn't get involved with such problem right now. Turning their backs, the two start heading towards the royal capital. Fabrice sees the adventurers and immediately calls out for Yuki. The sword hero doesn't care who Yuki is anymore. He just wants someone to help them. Yuki lets out a sigh but doesn't even bother turning around to talk to Fabrice. It's kinda the hero's fault for meddling in unnecessary things in the first place. A relentless Fabrice tries to convince Yuki to help them, telling Yuki the hero party will be completely wiped out if he doesn't intervene. Unexpectedly, the dragon spots the adventurers and gushes out another fiery breath. Although Yuki and Aurelia remain unscathed, the barrier magic they've both been relying on is now broken. The dragon then prepares for another attack. Yuki is now worried. Things have gone sour and there's absolutely no time to rebuild the barrier. Taking out his sword, Yuki takes the defensive side and orders Aurelia to stay away. The dragon lets out yet another attack. Yuki, not wanting to just stand by and watch, lashes the dragon's breath using his sword. Yuki stares at his sword with astonishment. Even with incomplete repairs, his sword can take on massive attacks. What more can he expect from the demon sword Berserk if it's completely repaired, right? Mouth agape, Fabrice is also surprised with Yuki's magical capabilities. In a sudden turn of events, the water-eyed dragon finally stops its attacks. Instead, it starts talking to the adventurers. It asks if Yuki is indeed the sage it's been waiting for. After Yuki promptly confirms his identity, the dragon starts telling the sage about its life and ultimate confinement. Around 1,000 years ago, the water-eyed dragon received a fatal wound in battle. This left it no choice but to seal itself away so it could heal. Not long, it fell into a deep slumber. Since the ancient times, dragons have always lived alongside sages. They are naturally drawn to people like Yuki, who can wield both magical wisdom and the power of dragons. The water-eyed dragon then proposes to take it as Yuki's subordinate. If Yuki does so, the sage will also gain great power. Yuck doesn't give the dragon an immediate answer. Personally, he just wants to live happily. Having such an enormous dragon would be troublesome to travel with. Hearing this, the dragon assures Yuki not to worry. It doesn't waste time at all and instantly turns itself into a cute little baby dragon. Oh my, the stark difference between earlier's ferocious dragon to this cute little pet. Both Yuki and Aurelia are dumbstruck with what's happening. While the dragon's body got smaller, its power remains the same, it just got cuter is all. The baby dragon then looks at Yuki guiltily, apologizing for doing terrible things to his companions, aka the heroes. Confused, Yuki tells the baby dragon that it has nothing to worry about because Aurelia remains scratch-free. The baby dragon then points out the heroes who are still trembling in fear despite the dragon's cute transformation. Looking at the heroes, Yuki negates the dragon's apology. It doesn't need to apologize since Yuki isn't close with the heroes. With arms on his waist, Yuki dryly jokes about the heroes being the bad ones. Fabrice frantically tries to salvage whatever friendship they have left by saying they once met at the castle. Lol, like that makes any difference. The baby dragon's eyes turn blank, asking Yuki if these so-called heroes are his enemies and if it should kill them instead. Both Fabrice and Shiri cry out in fear. To save themselves, Fabrice pleads he'll do anything Yuki says if he spares them. He then offers the title hero, and even offers his position as leader of the hero party. Of course, Yuki wouldn't accept such a ridiculous offer. How could he when it was Fabrice who kicked him out of the castle in the first place? Yuki remembers these faces as clear as day. Fabrice, Katashi, and Shiri were all scums and agreed to kick him out just because he was a sage. Yuki also remembers being called useless. It's not that simple to just take back something that's already been said just because they've been proven wrong. On bended knees, Fabrice begs with his life. He apologizes repeatedly and asks for Yuki's mercy. With crossed arms, Yuki looks at Fabrice's current stature. It's true that Fabrice is a self-centered guy, but Yuki isn't so sure if the sword hero is the real enemy here. Yuki finally gives the baby dragon an order to leave the heroes alive. They're not worth the trouble at all. This has the dragon slump in disappointment, but it heeds Yuki's commands. However, Yuki has one condition. The heroes need to deny all the bad rumors about him that have spread throughout the kingdom. They also need to apologize to Yuki for all the mean things they've said and done to him. Although Fabrice wants to say yes to this condition, he worries about the king's approval and all the complicated things he needs to do first. Compared to falling to their deaths now, Yuki believes Fabrice's task to be easy enough. The sword hero needs to figure it out or else the baby dragon will chomp off his head. What a cute chomping beast too! Fabrice immediately agrees, pleading once again to let him and the other heroes go. After that's settled, it's high time the adventurers plus their new pet to head back to the guild. Meanwhile, Shiri starts trying to heal her companions. They'll certainly be fine on their own. If it comes down to it, someone will eventually come and rescue them. The baby dragon then calls his master, wanting Yuki to bestow it a proper name. Without a name, it can't serve Yuki at all. Since the beast is called the water-eyed dragon, Yuki thinks of the name Sui. Yuki apologizes for being unable to think of a good name right away, but the baby dragon is more than happy with its new name. In fact, it likes it a lot. Not only did Yuki manage to complete the guild's requests all at once, he also managed to snag the water-eyed dragon as his pet. He also managed to have the heroes clear out his name that'll eventually restore his honor. It's been a surprising day for these adventurers indeed. Once arriving at the guild, Yuki informs the receptionist they'll be delivering the items from the requests he acquired earlier this morning. However, the receptionist is a bit puzzled upon seeing that the adventurers don't have the bags of items with them. Yuki, telling her to wait a moment, whips out his item storage. And with a bit of click here and click there, poof, the receptionist's counter is now full of all the requested herbs and flowers. Yuki then explains that it's a lot of items because of the simultaneous requests he took. The receptionist is mind-blown by this. To take on 10 requests all at once and delivering them by noon? What a feat! The receptionist doesn't have a choice but to believe Yuki and accept the items. Even if Yuki hired other adventurers or buy the items to complete the task, it would not gain him any monetary means at all. They'll need to count the items for accuracy, though then the receptionist will have to verify Yuki's guild certificate. Once Yuki hands out his ID card, the receptionist confirms his identity and of Aurelia's. Her eyes begin to twinkle as she recalls all the rumors she's heard. When Yuki defeated the Great Regulus with lightning-fast sword skills, winning the final task without even lifting a hand to fight, and even being a handsome newcomer. What a major fangirl moment it is for this receptionist. Yuki begins blushing and couldn't utter a single reply. The receptionist then informs the duo that they've been promoted to rank C after successfully completing all 10 requests. Aurelia jumps in joy upon hearing this. Before they could leave, the receptionist asks about Sui, who's been sleeping on top of Yuki's head. Yuki gets confused when the receptionist calls Sui a stuffed animal. He's about to tell her otherwise, but then stops and thinks it would be bad if anyone else will find out about Sui's true identity. Plus, Sui's been sleeping so peacefully that Yuki thinks it actually understands the situation and is pretending not to move. Scratching the back of his head, Yuki agrees with her, tells the receptionist that Sui is actually handmade. Starstruck, the receptionist asks Yuki to make one for her as well. Embarrassed by her own outburst, the receptionist apologizes. Yuki then tells her he might make one next time before bidding the receptionist goodbye. This excites the receptionist, already looking forward to their next encounter. Out Tuesday, Yuki is able to exhale in relief. That was a close call. To think Sui's true identity was close on getting exposed. Flapping its wings, Sui nods when Yuki asks about pretending to be a stuffed animal. Indeed, this baby dragon is a smart one. Praising Sui, Yuki gives its head a loving scratch and asks Sui to keep pretending in front of other people. Now the adventurers plus Sui are now hungry. After all, they deserve a hearty meal after today's accomplishments. Completing their request plus ranking up in the process? And with Sui joining them, Yuki's fate is looking positively remarkable now. He can't wait for what adventures lie next for them. Yuki, Aurelia, and Sui head towards Mount Carlon once more for a subjugation quest they took from the guild. While surrounded by wolves, both Yuki and Aurelia ready their swords. This is actually Aurelia's first subjugation quest, so she's a little bit nervous right now. Yuki reassures the princess, reminding her that she has him and Sui with her. Still, they can't just let their guard down. These wolves might have something up their fur. Suddenly, a game panel pops up telling Yuki his newly acquired skill, Evil Eye, is now available. The sage hasn't heard of this skill before, but judging by its name, it sounds like it can curse whatever he looks at. Yuki immediately activates Evil Eye, curious with the skill's use. One of the wolves in front of him suddenly has its stats displayed. Now Yuki understands that Evil Eye is actually an appraisal skill. Looking at the wolves and thanks to his new skill, Yuki now knows these beasts are different than the others in the forest. He quickly warns Aurelia to watch out for its fang attacks. One wolf lunges at Yuki, who instantly swerves his sword, slicing the wolf in half. Meanwhile, Aurelia is nervous but quite determined on their quest. One wolf jumps right at her. Screaming, Aurelia gives it her all to subjugate the beast. Unlike Yuki, who made a bloody mess out of the wolf, Aurelia only knocks its head out. Soon, the other wolves start attacking the duo. While Yuki slices them up, Aurelia knocks them out. They're really hunting at a pretty good pace now. As for Aurelia, she's also starting to get used to her new weapon. They've defeated all the wolves at this point. Yuki turns to ask Sui if she can sense any other monsters of the same level as the wolves around the area. In fact, Sui has detected a slightly stronger monster nearby. Coincidentally, Yuki hears a screeching scream from nearby as well. As soon as they head towards the direction of the sound, Yuki and Aurelia find an elf girl trapped in vines. Yuki knows they need to hurry and help the elf girl by removing those vines. After Yuki reassures the elf girl they're there to help, both Yuki and Aurelia try their best in slashing the vines. However, their efforts are proven useless as the vine's regeneration speed is faster than their sword attacks. Aurelia then tells Yuki she doubts they'll be able to defeat the vines if they don't do something about its regeneration ability. While Aurelia worries, she doesn't see the vines her Fu is stepping onto. The vines slowly wrap their way onto her leg, snatching Aurelia from the ground. Now she's hanging upside down with her skirt exposing underneath. Looking at both girls entangled in the vines, Yuki knows this is turning really bad. Approaching the sage, Sui offers her services, but Yuki stops her from doing so. He tries to observe and calculate the situation. Their enemy is a plant. This means there must be a main body controlling the vines somewhere. In that case, Yuki's goal should be to find the main body and attack it. That's the quickest way to save both girls. With a plan in mind, Yuki asks Sui to distract the vines so she could buy the sage some time. Sui does what she's told and the vines are all over the dragon. Seeing this as his chance, Yuki uses Evil Eye to look for the vine's main body. This is actually a monster plant called Man-Eater. Yuki already sees the Man-Eater's branches that has the entanglement skill. It doesn't take him long to find the Man-Eater's main body. This part of the monster plant is responsible for branch regeneration, and also has the stench of rotting flesh skill. Yuki quickly aims his sword at the Man-Eater's main body. He needs to make this one quick before the vines come and attack him. As Yuki is about to plunge his sword on the plant, he activates Divine Blessing. And just like that, the Man-Eater is no more. The elf girl immediately feels the vines stopping its movements. As for Aurelia, well, she's still hung upside down, clinging for dear life. Soon after, the vines finally let go of the girls, who both sigh in relief. Sui then goes to approach the two to check if they're okay. Once everything is all good, Yuki joins them. After thanking the sage for saving her, the elf asks both Yuki and Aurelia for their names, to which they happily share. The elf girl then introduces herself as Aina Nishel from the elf village. Upon hearing Aina's hometown, Aurelia realizes that's a town pretty far from the royal capital. So what's an elf like Aina traveling solo in a place far from home? Aina recounts the events that led her to this journey. Lately, there has been incidents of elves going missing. It turns out bandits have been kidnapping elves to sell them for slavery. Aina was chasing these bandits when they tried kidnapping one of her comrades. Unfortunately, Aina got attacked by the man-eater monster earlier. When her horse collapsed from exhaustion, the monster plant got its vines on the animal. The elf did try to escape, but she got caught up as well. She was just moments away from being killed when Yuki and Aurelia got there in time. Even Aurelia has heard of the elf slave trade. Apparently, elves are sold to perverts who are obsessed with demi-humans or for forced labor. Aina confirms this. Even though slave trading is absolutely prohibited in many countries, there are still those who are illegally operating like Oswald Kingdom. There are still rumors of slave trafficking in the kingdom, and Aina believes the bandits from earlier are from Oswald Kingdom, judging from the direction they're headed. Cross-armed and listening, Yuki tries to connect this with Aurelia's supposed kidnapping. The sage isn't sure if Aina's comrades were taken by the same bandits from the royal capital, but the method used by the thieves that attacked Aurelia in the capital seems similar in some way. With this elf trafficking happening, Yuki also guesses there might be a common mastermind pulling the strings behind these bandits. Getting a brilliant idea, Yuki suggests to have Aina stay in the royal capital for a while so they could all search for clues about her missing comrades. Although Aina appreciates the gesture, she also doesn't want to trouble Yuki and Aurelia. But the sage assures her that it's no biggie at all. He then shares how him, Aurelia, and Sui are all staying in the royal capital. This puts a warm smile on the elf's face, agreeing to stay with the adventurers while she looks for her comrades. Aurelia is also happy to have Aina on board, welcoming her with open arms. Speaking of Sui, Aina really thought the dragon was a stuffed animal. As soon as Sui starts speaking though, the elf is startled. Yuki immediately tells her that Sui is a part of their group and will go into further details while they walk back home. Meanwhile, at the Royal Capital Guild, a bruised and bandages Fabrice approaches the guild's attendant, desperately asking her for details about Matsuyaki Yuki. The attendant quickly apologizes to the so-called hero, telling him the guild can't disclose personal information about other adventurers. Fabrice now starts harassing the attendant, insisting he's the hero, and that King Selber is greatly troubled by this Yuki business as well. The attendant tries to calm Fabrice down while telling him his request is impossible to do. Grabbing the attendant by the collar, Fabrice starts calling her a bastard for keeping such information from him. He even threatens her if she doesn't comply with Fabrice's request. Even when the attendant reminds Fabrice that violence isn't acceptable, the so-called hero is very much desperate for information on Yuki. Luckily, Regulus arrives to stop Fabrice's harassment. Fabrice instantly recognizes Regulus as Yuki's opponent during the practical exam. Regulus also knows Fabrice is the sword hero too. He then judges Fabrice's actions, mocking him for his roughness and crudeness even when he's supposed to be the hero. Getting defensive, Fabrice shoves Regulus away. After all, the so-called hero has His Majesty the King that's also concerned about Yuki's existence. Fabrice is only doing the investigation for the king. Suggesting Regulus team up with him, Fabrice tries manipulating the A-rank adventurer by reminding him of his loss to Yuki in the practical exam. Surely Regulus is also curious of Yuki's background. Without much thought, Regulus bluntly tells the so-called hero doesn't really look or feel like someone who could defeat Yuki. In fact, even if they teamed up together, Regulus still thinks no one could defeat the sage. Fabrice is surprised with the embarrassing words coming out of Regulus's mouth. Regulus tries to explain what he meant. Most people can get a vague sense of a swordsman's character just by watching their swordplay. During the practical exam, Yuki's sword was straight and honest, without a hint of malice. Regulus is a firm believer that the sage is truly a good person and isn't a traitor. That's exactly why Regulus doesn't want to oppose Yuki again. Appalled, Fabrice curses Regulus for siding with Yuki instead of him. The sword hero is really out here, bruised and bandaged, ready to fight Regulus for his disobedience. Regulus, on the other hand, remains calm and collected. He stops Fabrice from further escalating, pointing out the sword hero's current condition. This silences Fabrice. Trying to save face, the sword hero tells Regulus he'll let it slide for now and he'll come back to expose Yuki for what he truly is. After leaving, the attendant thanks Regulus for saving her. Regulus doesn't need her gratitude but wants the attendant to let him know if Fabrice ever bothers the guild again. Now Regulus is curious why these people are snooping around Yuki's affairs, especially the king. Rumors have spread about Yuki being a traitor and that he made people think he was actually a hero. However, Regulus believes there's no need for such titles if they were to face the Demon King. And there should be no reason for Yuki to falsely pretend to be a hero too. Feeling something's off, Regulus goes out to do some research himself. Maybe the A-ranker will finally unravel the truth about what happened to Yuki. The next morning arrives and it's not a good one for Yuki. Well, he was supposed to have a good night's sleep, but it seems that these two girls plus Sui decided to snuggle up to him last night. Let's go back to the night before, shall we? As expected, with an addition of another person and a pet, Yuki and Aurelia's usual in-room became too cramped. Yuki then suggested they take this opportunity to split the rooms by gender, but a discussion ensues between the trio. Crossing her arms, Aina questions them why they didn't separate rooms in the first place. Yuki scratches the back of his head while he apologizes, continuing to explain how Aurelia insisted she'll feel safer if Yuki were to stay with her. Aurelia then chimes in, adding how it was more economical for them to rent only one room together instead of two separate ones. She then happily points out how it's much more livelier and fun when they're all together. Yuki hesitantly agrees with her though, making Aina finally approve of staying in one room together. A blushing Aina then tells Yuki not to start anything weird with her. Clueless, Yuki asks what kind of weird she's talking about. Aina didn't expect that from Yuki, making her blush even more as she nervously replies it's embarrassing to say out loud. She also calls Yuki an idiot for asking. After that little banter, Yuki calls it a night. In the middle of the night, Aina wakes up and discovers Aurelia is trying to sneak into Yuki's bed. Caught in the act, Aurelia stands up and tries to make an excuse on how she's just getting some fresh air. Aina doesn't buy her excuse, especially that the window is on the opposite side of their beds. Aurelia still won't budge and asks Aina to just go back to sleep, especially that she's tired. Now the elf's eyebrow is really raised, suspicious of Aurelia's movements. Straightforward, Aina asks what Aurelia's plans were, waking in the middle of the night and crawling towards Yuki. Red as a tomato, Aurelia can't make up an excuse anymore, and finally divulges the truth behind her actions. The princess goes to Yuki's side as she explains how it's very comfortable to sleep in. That's why Aurelia sneaks into his bed while Yuki's asleep. Aurelia's true colors are finally showing. Aina isn't impressed. The elf might be judging the princess right now, but she does position herself on Yuki's other side. Smirking, she tells Aurelia she wants to try out this comforting sleeping position herself. Aurelia is beyond appalled. Anger won't be enough to describe her mood right now. Maybe jealousy? However, Aurelia really can't do anything about it since Aina says she's only copying what the princess is doing. In the heat of their mini-argument, Aurelia then divulges how Yuki likes her better so she has the upper hand. This liking is based on the evidence that Yuki unconsciously touches Aurelia's front melons every night when she snuggles up to him. To the princess, Yuki is a chest expert, so even while asleep he can absolutely, without a doubt 100%, tell whether they feel good or bad. Aurelia then defensively tells Aina how hers will be the ones being touched tonight and not Aina's. Taken aback, Aina doesn't really understand what Aurelia means, but the confidence is a bit too much. This ignites the fire inside of Aina, telling the princess how she hates losing when it comes to competition. With this, Aina proposes they test which chest Yuki will choose. And there shouldn't be any hard feeling even if either one of them loses. And thus, the awkward moment of Yuki waking up to such sleeping arrangement. He had no idea, of course. In the end, Sui joined in and slept on Yuki's chest as well. Yuki's dilemma doesn't stop there. He now realizes his hands are feeling up something soft and plump. Looking to his right, he already expected it to be Aurelia, as this is not the first time the princess has done such a naughty thing. So the sage thinks of using his left hand to move around. But how can he do so when he discovers Aina has crawled and snuggled to him as well? Then there's Sui. Yuki already felt something heavy lying on his stomach but never expected it to be Sui who was supposed to be sleeping by the window. At this rate, if Yuki moves even the slightest bit, everyone's going to wake up startled. Feeling hopeless, Yuki just lies there as he thinks about the ultimate power he's obtained, not as sage or anything else. Just an ordinary man trapped between two chests in bed, unable to move. And even if he wanted to get up, he can't. So Yuki decided to give up overthinking things and try sleeping again. Sigh. The problems our MC has is every other boy's dream. The next morning, the sunshine from outside wakes Yuki up from his slumber. He is instantly bombarded by the two girls greeting him good morning. They really are in on this competition, immediately asking if the sage slept well. The girls also noticed Yuki was just pretending not to notice them. So of course, that meant he slept well, right? Yuki tries to thwart their accusations, but the girls aren't having it at all. They tell him there's no use pretending and to just admit remembering and feeling both Aurelia and Aina sleeping next to him. And with this came the ultimate question of which one felt better. Scratching the back of his head, Yuki blushingly tells them how he can't choose between both. He honestly thinks both the girls felt like the best in different ways. This answer isn't enough for Aurelia and Aina, who both press him to answer their question differently. Pressuring the sage even more, Aina desperately tells Yuki she doesn't want to lose to Aurelia. The princess herself also wants Yuki to choose her. It's beginning to look like a pick-me-choose-me battle. Having enough of this commotion, especially this early in the morning, Yuki tells them to stop dragging him in this competition of theirs. He then suggests they go eat and accept a guild request. Meanwhile, Sui is still fast asleep. Even when she's been thrown to the floor, the dragon is still happily snoring. After Aina completed her guild adventurer registration, the trio now accepted a request to hunt monsters to test Aina's abilities. Back in Yuki's world, he's already heard of elves in the gaming world being good at handling bows. Yuki will now know if it's really true in this world. Aurelia has also heard of elves being skilled at hunting using bows too. Since they're people of the forest, such skill is innate in them. Calm and collected, Aina holds her bow and arrow at her target. Soon enough, she unleashes her shot like it's from the hells of the earth. Quickly impressed, Yuki has no doubts the elf will be able to pass the guild's practical exam right away. Aina then shares how elves in their village really do training since childhood. That's why she's truly skilled with her bow and arrow. But Yuki already feels unsatisfied with the low-leveled monsters lurking in the area. It would be great if they could hunt a lot of monsters more efficiently. This gets the sage the brilliant idea of Sui gathering monsters for them. With Sui's superpowers, she'll be able to resonate with the monster's magic power and make them think she's one of them. This way, those monsters will gather around Yuki's area for hunting. Clasping her hands, Sui manifests her powers to start gathering the monsters. Not long, a lot of monsters have gathered in the area. Wisps that are level 5 monsters and salamanders that are level 6 monsters are now reading for reaping. A determined smile splays on Yuki's face as he tells everyone to give it their best and put their skills to the test. Sword in hand, Yuki slashes and slices through the wisp's skull-like body. He then realizes there's a different feeling when he cuts through them. Approaching Yuki, Sui shares how it's an attribute attack. Since Sui has become his subordinate, Yuki can now use water attribute attacks. Water attribute attacks deal double damage against fire attribute monsters. Having Sui on their side sure is a major advantage. With this new skill, Yuki plans on targeting the fire attribute monsters first so they can get rid of them more quickly. He slashes his sword at a fire salamander which is instantly killed with the water splice. Even without the sword touching the monsters, the impact alone can defeat them. Aina also makes use of her bow and arrow, targeting the wisps magnificently. While Aina and Yuki both have their hands full, Aurelia is fully determined to do her best as well. She doesn't want to get herself behind her two amazing comrades. Suddenly, salamanders crawl towards the princess. And like her previous battle, instead of making a bloody mess of these monsters, Aurelia knocks them out with her sword instead. Aurelia manages to knock one out, but her problems are far from over. She's now surrounded with even more salamanders. Refusing to give up, Aurelia lifts up her sword. She'll surely handle this much, just take them out one at a time. However, Aurelia looks over at Yuki and Aina, who are both using their weapons full force in killing these wisps and salamanders. And suddenly, her self-affirmation a little while ago disappears. The sun soon begins setting, and our adventurer have finished hunting down every single last one of the monsters. Aina has run out of arrows and Sui has used up a lot of her magic. They're all starving. It's a good thing Yuki has already proposed they head back to the capital soon. A smiling Yuki is happy that they've hunted around 1,000 monsters altogether. At this rate, he also believes Aina will be able to rank up soon. The elf somehow feels a bit shy about Yuki's compliment. She also compliments the sage for his beyond-the-norm powers. Aurelia only listens to their exchange. However, everyone turns towards her, noticing her unusual quietness. She quickly makes an excuse of having a lot in her mind and that it's really nothing. Smiling, Yuki then asks the princess if she's gotten tired after hunting monsters all day. Even Aina quips in, saying it's understandable if Aurelia's been on the same pace as them. Aurelia quickly and frustratingly tells both Yuki and Aina that she's still very full of energy, making Yuki apologize. Maybe save that energy for next time. After that, Yuki tells everyone they're headed home. Both Sui and Aina are happy to do so, especially the elf that wants to take a bath after that sweaty battle. What they don't notice is Aurelia, who's still in a pensive mood. She's now feeling insecure that everyone else is super strong, and yet, there she was, questioning if she's even helpful to Yuki. Everyone arrives at Oswald Royal Capital ready to eat and relax after such a productive day. However, they're stopped on their tracks when Shiri has been waiting for Yuki all this time. Gone is the girl who almost spat at Yuki for being a fake hero. Now Shiri acts all demure as she reminds Yuki they've met once in the castle and in the forest. Aurelia also remembers Shiri because of the incident in the forest. Yuki doesn't really know much of Shiri, who only giggles as she apologizes. Shiri introduces herself once more. She's here because her reputation has gone down the drain along with Fabrice's. Unfortunately for her, what they did is still fresh in Yuki's mind. Yuki nonchalantly informs her he's the healing hero and this is all a strange coincidence. Desperate, Shiri grabs Yuki's arm and draws herself closer. She then confesses her love for the sage. Apparently, Shiri has fallen in love with Yuki at first sight. Her reason? Shiri was captivated with the power Yuki used to subdue the water-eyed dragon in a single strike. And of course, Yuki's gallant figure. Because of this, Shiri's heart has been utterly stolen away by Yuki. Now she wants to stay by Yuki's side. Both Aurelia and Aina watch this little scene in Quay horror. Before anything else, Yuki stops Shiri to explain that he fully understands her said feelings for him, but unfortunately, he can't reciprocate them. Even though Shiri just poured her passionate emotions towards Yuki, The sage still can't return them. Being told something like that out of the blue by a stranger is really awkward too. Shiri's true colors begin to show as she angrily confronts Yuki for having the audacity turning down her confession of love. Her, as in the world's greatest beauty and ranking number 2 in the hero party. Mouths just drop to the floor. The trio are beyond appalled by the sudden change of moods. Shiri then continues her dramatics, adding how her unparalleled skills can move mountains and control the seas in all directions. With her beauty and benevolence, even 100 troops or ancient gods' monsters would kneel. Shiri even believes her beauty is sometimes a burden. Yes, girl, best believe that. Yuki doesn't even understand what Shiri means, but one thing's for sure. Even if Shiri's the most beautiful in the world or a high-ranking hero, Yuki's still not interested. Surprise is an understatement. I think this is the first time someone has turned down Shiri's allure. Soon, Aina and Aurelia quip in, airing their concerns with Shiri's weirdness. They both believe they shouldn't get involved with her. Yuki's not finished just yet. He then asks Shiri if she likes authority, then adds how assuming others are like her just because she is called being stupid. Wow. Judging by Shiri's reaction, it's also safe to say this is the first time she's being called stupid. After this, Yuki points out how it isn't a coincidence Shiri's here, but whatever her reason, Yuki asks her to leave. An embarrassed Shiri still can't wrap her head around Yuki making a fool of her. Angry and frustrated, Shiri then points Aurelia, calling her a blonde bimbo who's dumb-looking, and then she proceeds to call Aina a rural demi-human girl. She angrily asks Yuki if these two girls are better than her. Aina is angry at Shiri's rudeness, especially that they just met. Aurelia, on the other hand, is on the verge of crying for being called dumb and ugly. That is enough. Yuki has heard enough. If it's just about him, that's okay. But insulting Aurelia and Aina is something he can't just ignore. He confronts Shiri for her mean words, telling her that even if her appearance was above and beyond, a woman without character has no charm at all. In reality, Shiri wouldn't even begin to compare to Aina or Aurelia's looks. Hearing this, the girls are both swooning over Yuki's words, but angers Shiri even more. Shiri uses her last resort to lure Yuki. She grabs the sage towards her and immediately suffocates him in her ample jugs. Shiri believes Yuki's mind will change once he gets a feel of her and will throw away Aurelia and Aina aside. Yuki can't even say anything because he's being smothered in real bad. So, Yuki hits Shiri's hand, telling her to stop. The woman then reminds Yuki that it's bad to use violence against women, but she was just harassing him? Such expectations. However, Yuki has never struck a woman before, so even now Yuki believes he didn't use violence against a woman. Why? Because to Yuki, Shiri has no appeal as a woman and isn't worthy to be treated as one anymore. Dead serious and with Sui emitting power too, Yuki tells Shiri to relay the message to Fabrice, that if he ever sees him again, Yuki will kill him. Before leaving, Yuki mocks Shiri with her words from earlier, highlighting the part wherein she's the world's greatest beauty. Yuki then tells everyone they'll leave now. Aurelia spaces out once more, which Yuki notices and asks about once again. The princess doesn't really tell him what she's been feeling about, instead tells Yuki it's just nothing. While walking, Aurelia thanks Yuki for defending and standing up for her earlier with Shiri. Yuki assures her no to worry about it because he was just telling Shiri the truth. The princess is glad to hear Yuki's response. With crossed arms, Yuki recalls Shiri's words from earlier. The woman still called Fabrice a hero after everything. Aina then tells him not to take Shiri's words seriously. Again, Aurelia is just listening in on their conversation. Her unusual quietness has been worrying Yuki, who has noticed Aurelia's indifference. Normally, the princess would smile and not let things get to her. Could Aurelia be that affected by Shiri's words? The trio then arrive at the guild where they report on the monster-slaying request they took earlier. The attendant then asks Yuki to show the back of his guild card. Apparently, the number of monsters Yuki's defeated for requests is automatically recorded on the back of his guild card. Handing his card over, Yuki never really thought there was such a function of his ID card. It's the latest magical technology in this world. As soon as the attendant lays her eyes on the card, she had to adjust her glasses, as if to make sure she's reading the numbers right. Yuki has slayed 1,000 monsters. A nonchalant Yuki casually tells the attendant that it's really easy to reach such feat if one just defeats monsters more efficiently. But the attendant still finds it abnormal to slay that many in just one day. Probably setting a new record too. Yuki then asks if this meant he'll rank up again because this was the sole purpose of accepting the guild request in the first place. The attendant then informs Yuki that she'll prepare the new guild card, so for now, she needs the old ones back. Quickly turning to Aurelia, Yuki asks for her guild card. However, the princess gives out a firm no, and explains to them that she's fine keeping her current rank as she didn't defeat the same number of monsters Yuki and Aina did. Aurelia feels like she shouldn't be ranking up with them since she barely defeated any monsters herself. So what's the point? Might as well stay at D rank. Yuki then asks the attendant what happens in cases like these, to which Sei had to think about first, as this is the first time she's heard or handled such. As a rule, if you decline promotion, you'll keep your current rank. However, even if one gets promoted, one can still accept lower rank requests, so there's almost no reason to decline promotion. With this in mind, Yuki asks if he can have some time to think about it first. The attendant does tell him he can make the decision later, but he'll only have 3 days to comply or else his right to the rank up is forfeited. Yuki then agrees with the 3-day deadline and asks the attendant to have his rank up on hold for now. Leaving the guild, Yuki approaches Aurelia to ask about the sudden refusal of the rank up. The princess apologizes and sincerely conveys how she doesn't want to burden Yuki. The sage gently tells her there's no need for apologies as he's not blaming her or anything. What Yuki just wants is to hear Aurelia's reason. Today's monster hunt compared to Yuki and Aina's battles, Aurelia felt like she can't keep up. Earlier, Shiri even harshly called the princess a lot of names. Yuki was quick enough to defend Aurelia. Still, the princess couldn't utter a single word. Aurelia doesn't mean she wants to defeat Yuki or Aina, but she just feels like she doesn't deserve to receive the same results or prize as them right now. Both Yuki and Aina give her an encouraging smile. Yuki then apologizes for overstepping and thinking he was doing the right thing for the princess. Yuki understands it's not easy not to feel intimidated when looking at them. However, no matter the reason, losing confidence more than necessary isn't good as well. The princess apologizes once more, saying she should have known better herself. Aina then gets a sudden idea to boost Aurelia's morale. The princess thinks she doesn't have the strength to rank up to a C adventurer. If she can handle C rank requests easily, then there shouldn't be a problem with her rank going up, right? Yuki also thinks this is a good plan and suggests Aurelia give it a try. If Aurelia can handle it on her own, then there shouldn't be a problem with her rank going up with them. Just be safe, Yuki will still accompany the princess, but she'll be the one to challenge a C rank request on her own. Even if it's not a request, Aurelia is still free to go outside and defeat monsters on her own, testing her strength without hesitation. Yuki's words touch Aurelia's heart and suddenly she has the courage to do this. Yuki also calls this the perfect time to do so since Aina will be taking the guild's practical exam, so she'll be doing that while they'll go on a C rank adventure. Aina then gives Aurelia another bout of encouragement by highlighting how it's just a matter of time before both her and Yuki might outrank the princess. When that happens, will the princess honestly admit defeat? The princess doesn't want that. Now she's fully determined to prove she's capable. Not to Yuki or Aina, but to herself. If Aurelia really does want to compete with Aina like the night before, the princess must show pride and determination. Aurelia will definitely make it happen. Yuki then calls it a day. Today they rest to prepare for tomorrow's events. He's really tired from having to deal with Shiri earlier. Good luck, Aurelia. Trembling legs, shaky hands, and a heart full of doubt. This is Aurelia's current state right now, as she takes in the sight before her. Gripping her sword tightly, the princess faces the sinister monsters that lure the goblin's nest. One goblin attacks her so suddenly that brings Aurelia's mind back to reality. If it weren't for Yuki's fast reflexes, the princess would have been seriously hurt right now. While holding off the goblin, Yuki instructs Aurelia not to overthink things since she's clearly intimidated by the C-rank opponents she's about to face. As planned yesterday, Aina is currently taking the guild's practical exam, so these two came to challenge a C-rank request from the guild. It's not really an official request, but Yuki thought this would be the best way to test Aurelia's strength. Both Yuki and Aurelia have their swords up. Their guards are clearly up as these goblins begin to surround the duo. One goblin attacks Aurelia from behind, but with Yuki's warning, the princess manages to dodge the monster's attack. Aurelia is not in the clear just yet. The goblin lunges at her again, and while the princess dodges it yet again, she's now fearing the attacks are too fast for her to catch up. Watching over, Yuki assures her that she's doing just fine by blocking the impending attacks properly. However, Aurelia can't seem to find the right rhythm and timing to counter-attack. Yuki reassures her once more. The princess needs to believe in herself. Yuki knows Aurelia is more than capable to do this. This time, another goblin joins in on attacking Aurelia, who manages to block its attack. But as expected, the goblins aren't holding back either and quickly close the distance between them. These beasts are definitely determined on killing the adventurers. As Yuki holds off the goblin, he tells the princess to calm down and to stop hesitating and only focus on her defense. Aurelia just needs to be brave enough to attack her opponents before they close in on her. Giving it her best to try and execute Yuki's instructions, Aurelia waits for the goblins to draw near enough. And when they do, she swings her sword at them, slicing their bodies in half. Whoa-hoo, Aurelia has managed to kill monsters for the first time ever. Remember, she only used to knock them out with her weak attacks. Like a proud mentor, Yuki gives his compliments and reminds Aurelia to not forget the feeling. You know, that adrenaline rush you get when facing enemies. Watching the princess, Yuki isn't shocked to see the princess shine in the battlefield. He already knows Aurelia isn't weak at all. Despite her royal bloodline, Aurelia did manage to travel alone to the royal capital before meeting Yuki. At the very least, Yuki knows the princess has the abilities of a typical adventurer. Right now, Aurelia's real enemy isn't the goblins in front of her. but Aurelia herself. She has lost herself because of all the fear and doubt that's clouding her heart and mind. That's why Yuki believes in her even more. The sage is sure that the princess will realize her true capabilities and overcome her self-doubt. Soon after, Aurelia has finally defeated the last goblin attacking her. She's still on high alert though. The battle has just started. A warm smile etches on Yuki's face, noting how Aurelia is taking down her enemies much more quicker now. When asked if she needs a break, Aurelia simply turns it down as she's fully determined to continue till the end. Getting the hang of her new sword is a huge plus too. Aurelia can really feel the difference compared to her old one. This new sword is a lot more efficient to use, that it's less tiring whenever Aurelia swings it. Thanks to the Han's grandpa, Aurelia got a hold of a recommended item that has a magic stone embedded in it. Apparently, it's said to be more effective against monsters compared to those mass-produced swords in the market. Now confident, Aurelia leads the way as they venture deeper into the goblin's nest. Meanwhile, Yuki has already activated his evil eye skill. At first, he genuinely planned on intervening and assisting if things went awry, but seeing Aurelia's stats right now has him thinking otherwise. The princess might not realize it yet, but she soon will. Watching her fight the goblins more confidently, Yuki realizes these monsters are a bit strong even for Aurelia's current strength. His question is, why was a request to defeat these enemies even issued as a C-rank request? Fishy. Without telling Aurelia, this quest was originally intended for a party rather than a solo C-rank adventurer. The fact that Aurelia has been able to complete this alone will surely help regain and boost her confidence once she finds out. Still using Evil Eye, Yuki sees a different breed of goblins. Now clad in armor, these goblins are expected to be tougher for Aurelia to defeat alone, but if she can manage to do so, it'll surely add self-confidence points. So to help Aurelia without actually getting in the battlefield, Yuki instructs Sui to lure the goblins out one by one. This way, the enemies will be thinned out and Aurelia can fight them more easily. With these instructions, Sui heads towards the goblins to say hi. This distracts them, just enough so only one goblin could attack Aurelia with its Morning Star weapon. Quick on her feet, Aurelia jumps out to avoid it and then, seeing an opening, swings her sword directly at the goblin. That's one down, more to go. Aurelia sure is getting used to all this fighting. As Sui lets another goblin out, Aurelia defeats it breezily. Then another goblin, and then another. With her sword in hand, Aurelia rushes towards another goblin and slashes it dead. No more fear and doubt for this royal princess. After defeating yet another goblin, Aurelia gets a game panel that says she's acquired a body enhancement skill. Confused, the skill somehow gets activated and Aurelia could feel strength surging from within her. Yuki smiles as he finds out the princess can use skills as well. This just means she's becoming even more reliable. Stronger than ever before, Aurelia brazenly takes on another batch of goblins. With every swing and lash of her mighty sword, these beasts never stood a chance in the first place. The body enhancement skill also boosted Aurelia's defense. Now the goblin's attacks feels weaker than before. Swish, killing these monsters is as easy as pie. Not long after, Aurelia has completely mastered fighting these goblins. She's displayed a battle performance that's truly worth 1,000 soldiers. Look at this princess. She's even graceful even in the battlefield. Finally, Aurelia succeeded in wiping out all the goblins in the nest herself. Not a single goblin made it out alive. Even Sui can confirm the beasts are non-existent anymore. Yuki can finally tell Aurelia the fact that he's been hiding all along. When the sage divulges that this request was originally for a C-rank party, Aurelia's eyes grows as big as saucers. After that initial shock, she realizes the fact that she managed to clear it all by herself. Smiling, Yuki confirms it and tells the princess she should at least have a C-rank or higher ability. Now Aurelia can't say no to the rank up anymore. Beaming with renewed confidence, Aurelia agrees and thanks Yuki for everything. The sage is just glad Aurelia is feeling better now. With this finally coming to an end, they all decide to head back to the city. Once they reach the city, they immediately head to the Royal Capital's Guild. Aurelia's stature sure is noticeable as the attendant quickly confirms if the princess had reconsidered the rank up. Thanks to Yuki, Aurelia sure will. This has the attendant curious as to what made Aurelia change her mind so quickly. The sage quickly shrugs it off as nothing major. Oh, he just made Aurelia clear out a goblin nest herself, nothing biggie. As if wanting clarification, the attendant asks for Yuki to repeat what he had just said. So this time, Yuki goes into detail. He shares how it was a goblin extermination request for C-rank adventurers. Even if Aurelia didn't officially accept the request, there shouldn't be a problem if she went and cleared it all by herself. The attendant seems to be confused about this goblin extermination request for C-rankers. Yuki then tells the attendant that the request should have been posted on the bulletin board at the corner. Sure of it, the attendant tells Yuki there's just no way there's a request like that for C-rankers. She gets the posted request and upon looking at it, it's really a goblin extermination request. However, upon further inspection, the attendant says this was the staff's mistake. She then pieces the puzzle together and realizes this must be the reason why it's been up on the bulletin board for so long. The attendant will make sure to talk to the staff in charge, but for now, there's an even more surprising twist to this controversial request. The attendant reads on the request further, and soon finds out it's actually meant to be a B rank request for a party. Both Yuki and Aurelia are shocked. It wasn't for C ranks, but for B rankers. And for a party, too. The attendant rushes towards Aurelia, who's still shocked from the information she just learned. She puts her hands on the princess's shoulder and tells her it might have been Yuki's fault for misunderstanding the request, but the fact that Aurelia handled a B-rank party request all by herself is pretty abnormal too. After a while, Aurelia snaps out from the shock and asks Yuki if she just did something amazing. Amazing! You did something out of this world, princess, and it seems the news hasn't sank in yet. After being busy hustling and bustling outdoors today, the gang decides to stay in their inn-room. Not for leisure or anything though. Yuki is brewing something new. Both Aurelia and Aina watch as the sage begin brewing some potions. In this world, it's called alchemy. It's a skill Yuki learned some time ago, but because of his buy schedule, never really had the time to try it out. So today is that day. Yuki's thinking of maybe making something with the materials they got from the previous quests they went onto. Experimenting with the concoctions in his hands, Yuki activates his alchemy skill as he mixes it all together. The potion synthesis is successful. Seeing the freshly brewed potion has both Yuki and Aurelia amazed. Aurelia's right too. It's amazing to be able to make potions that are usually sold in stores. I bet they don't come cheap as well. While Yuki grabs another set of plants, Aina asks him if he's not going to use holy water. Apparently in the elf village, they also make elixirs and holy water is essential for that. It's a rare material that's also super hard to get your hands on because it's located at the peak of the steepest mountains. But today must be their lucky day. Sui raises her cute little dragon hand to say that she has some. After all, she is a water dragon. It's not a big of a deal since she can make it right at this moment. Sui then finds an empty container and asks Yuki if it's okay to store it there. After confirmation, Sui begins to vomit crystal clear water. She easily fills up the jar, leaving Aina dumbstruck as it's a lot of precious holy water. At the rate Sui's going at it, it's just like normal water now. Yuki begins mixing the materials once more, this time using the holy water. After the skill activates and the potion is successfully synthesized, Yuki now has an elixir that looks like it's a bit glowing. Sui then shares how alchemists back in his time made even more amazing stuff. This dragon knows Yuki will be able to do that too, just needs to keep trying a few more times. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. Yuki heeds Sui's advice and tries again. If he experiments more, who knows what new recipes he could make and discover. The sage whips up and plays around with the materials, and alas, his efforts bear fruition as the final product is beaming. Before, it might have been just a bit glowing. Now it's blinding. Yuki asks Sui to confirm if his eyes aren't deceiving him. Is this even more amazing than the last one? Sui says yes, even complimenting the sage for a job well done. Bringing it closer for inspection, Aina grabs the newly made potion and compliments for its top-notch quality. To think Yuki can make this so easily too. On top of that, Yuki doesn't even need any special equipment and can even gather all the necessary materials himself. An idea clicks in Aurelia's mind, suggesting Yuki become a potion merchant so he could make a ton of money. Although Yuki agrees, he thinks selling these himself would be too much of a hassle. So, instead of that, he plans on supplying the potions to the merchants. That way, Yuki could focus on gathering materials and synthesizing potions, leaving the selling part to the merchants. If he can successfully pitch this idea to the merchant guild, they'll make a huge profit. Yuki will sit on his pots and pots of gold in no time. Speaking of merchants, Aina shares how medicines from her village are actually sold in different towns by a traveling elf. Elf medicines are famous for curing all kinds of illnesses. With this said, Aurelia recalls a rumor she's heard about the elixir of immortality. Cue in suspense music. I'm joking. Yuki is surprised to hear that such thing really exists. Laughing, Aina shrugs it off and tells them elves don't really sell those kinds of things. Aina may not know all the deets about it, but what she does know is that there's a secret method for making the elixir of immortality which only few people know about in the elf village. Because of the secrecy surrounding it, greedy humans and even demons have threatened the village's peace many times. Thinking about it, Yuki wants to try making the elixir too. For now, he just needs to master alchemy first. Sui knows a great alchemist that was able to reproduce the elixir of immortality, but that was 1,000 years ago. Meanwhile, in the capital's castle town, Regulus is casually walking the streets when he hears a commotion nearby. Someone is being chased by a bunch of goons. Scratch that, not just someone, but an elf girl. The elf reaches a corner, trapping her from further escaping. The two goons draw in closer to the elf girl, angry of the hassle this demi-human has brought them. They immediately put their hands on the elf, wicked smiles etched on their faces. They begin taunting and threatening her for having the guts to escape earlier. But one thing they'll make sure of? that she'll never make it back to the elf village safely. Roughly grabbing the elf girl, the goons scream at her to get back to the prison quietly. If not, she'll be killed right there and then. Before they could make their way back to the prison, Regulus calmly approaches the commotion to intervene. The goons immediately recognize Regulus. To them, it's a case of really bad luck. Regulus knows these two are up to no good. There's no way he's going to turn a blind eye on this one. The goon holding the elf already has his sharp sword aimed at her neck, as if ready to slice it open if Regulus makes any sudden moves on them. The goon then shares how he's only doing his job as he was only instructed by the higher-ups to bring the elf girl back. Hearing this, Regulus realizes that the rumors about the increase of criminals and suspicious people are definitely true. Are these two part of that syndicate? Regulus then asks the two men on whose orders are they following. Not that these two low-lives would ever answer him too. Instead, they smugly ask Regulus to ask them with his sword. The A-ranker would never back down from an invitation like this one. He draws out his sword, ready to face these two wretched fools who are confident on bringing Regulus down. The goon with the spiky hair attacks first, and he moves quick too. He doesn't let Regulus take offense, continuously attacking the A-ranker with his sword. He even has the audacity to mock Regulus's strength by asking if it's all the strongest adventurer of the kingdom could do. While the sword fight ensues between them, the bald goon sneaks behind Regulus and aims his sword at him. There's a reason why Regulus is hailed as the kingdom's strongest. His quick wit in the battlefield clearly shows as he immediately senses the impending attack. Regulus quickly pushes spiky-haired goon away and swings his weapon at Baldy. Before they know it, their ruckus has drawn quite the audience, which leads the goons to make their exit. It'll be trouble if they get caught by the guards. One of the men turns to Regulus and tells him he's just lucky today. But next time they run into each other, that won't be the case. Regulus immediately tends to the bruised elf girl who thanks him for saving her. The A-ranker reassures the girl that help and treatment will come right away. However, the elf seems to be more worried about her comrades from the village. They're all trapped in the castle's underground prison. The adventurer is now confused. Why would these people be in a place like that? In the castle's grounds, too. The elf doesn't answer him at all. Instead, she tearfully asks for a favor from Regulus. The elf then shows Regulus an amulet, conveying how she would like this delivered to the people of the village, and to tell them that a great danger is approaching the village. Before the elf girl catches her last breath, she tells Regulus that this is an urgent matter. Otherwise, it'll all be too late. Now Regulus is in deep thought. With what happened to Yuki, now this. What's really going on in that king's mind? Regulus can only hope this ominous feeling is nothing. Meanwhile, back at Oswald Castle, the king is furious upon knowing that the elf girl had escaped. The guard giving the report also tells the king that the thugs were unfortunately spotted by Regulus and were driven off. First with Princess Aurelia and now the elf girl. Furious is an understatement on how the king feels right now, I think. His guards can't even capture a single fleeing rat properly. The king has no choice but to forget about the elf girl. They still need a large number of elves, so the thugs should just resume the elf hunt instead. After the guard leaves with new orders, a dark entity appears beside the king, laughing at the king's current misfortune. This is to be expected from mere thugs he hired. In the first place, the king can't just use his own soldiers for such a personal and secret agenda. The king is beyond frustrated, but he has no choice but to leave the dirty work to those thugs. The dark entity doesn't really care what methods the king used as long as he keeps his end of the bargain. The king understands this full well. Right now, they're just experiencing a bump on the road. But preparations are already underway to soon fulfill the dark entity's demands. The dark entity reminds the king of their goal: more magic. They must gather more magic power from the elf village. Curious, the king asks the entity on what it really plans to do with all that magic power, and if it's truly necessary in conquering other nations. This dark entity is actually a demon. The power of these demons is ultimate and immense. An example of such power is the evil dragon, which was sealed by the gods a long time ago. To unleash the evil dragon's power, an enormous amount of magic is required. This magic power stems from the elves. At the mention of this so-called magic power, the king then asks the demon about his own demands. This greedy king wishes to know the secret of the elixir of immortality that's said to be passed down in the elf village. With the elixir of immortality, the old king doesn't need to fret about not having an heir. He'll be king for all eternity. When the demon gets what he wants, it intends to lend the king its strength in searching for the said elixir. But first, the king must prove his loyalty to the demons. If the demon can assure him the elixir, then it has the king's utmost loyalty. The king promises to deliver his end of the bargain. He just needs a bit more time. The demon soon fades away, a sinister smile splayed on its darkness. Alone, the king feels that the demons are really growing impatient. They must act quick and make their next move before anyone aside from Regulus finds out, especially Yuki, who the king still calls a fake hero.